Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Sivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Whether someone is young or old, very soon in their life, they value independence. Perhaps these children in the front here are too young to appreciate independence. But you can be sure that when they are in their teenage years, they'll be thinking of the time when they can do whatever they want. Well, of course, pleasing their parents. And when one becomes a young adult in the 20s, then one is also thinking, when can I fly my own aircraft? When can I make the main decisions in my life? I'll have my hands on all the levers of power in my life, fully. We look forward, when we are young, to education, and we look forward to jobs because we see them as vehicles for independence. Even when we approach marriage and family life, we think that our independence will be enhanced. We look at the other person and contemplate, you will help in my attempt to be independent in this world. Together we shall carve out our own special niche, and we will thrive, our family. Independence is so highly sought after. But actually, the truth of the Vedas, the truth of Bhagavad-Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam is that maximum dependency is valued. Let us discuss the spiritual world and the material world. What attracts us about Krishna's pastimes, his Leela? We see maximum, unlimited dependency on Krishna. Actually, that is the only kind of independence. We cannot be independent on our own because we are tiny parts. Only Krishna can be independent, and he is supremely independent. When you consider Krishna's Vrindavan pastimes, you see how the cowherd boys, how the cowherd girls, how everyone and everything in Vrindavan is dependent 100% on Krishna. This is freedom. Now we might think, what kind of definition of freedom is that if you're so bound to Krishna? Krishna is the complete whole, the Om Purnam. We are his parts. We experience our maximum freedom and independence through Krishna, but we can't do it on our own. We are too tiny. Now just look at your life and try to see how you have sought to maneuver for independence. Maybe in your choice of where you live. Maybe it's different here in the USA, but students from India who are studying in Australia, they always tell me that they like studying in Australia because they're far from home, no one can see what they're doing, they can experiment, and no one will ever know. I know it's different here. So their choice of location, they feel, is giving them independence, freedom. Also, people think that money will give you freedom. The more money you have, the more options you have. The more options you have, the more you are free, because there's so many things to choose from. Actually, in a consumer society, we are enslaved by our senses. So there may be so many choices of consumer goods around us, but we are completely under the control of our senses, and therefore our options are limited. Real freedom is not expressed in terms of your choosing this item or that item. That's not real freedom. Real freedom is expressed in your choosing to give Krishna loving devotional service. And through Krishna, you experience the unlimited freedom. How many births, how many lifetimes does it take for us to understand that the material world offers no freedom, no independence? Let us consider political independence, which is considered a necessity in this day and age. By the effort to become sovereign, the effort to have control of one's national destiny, does that make you truly independent? No. It's simply a question of whom you pay taxes to. Sometimes you pay taxes to persons of your own ethnic group, and sometimes not. So do you consider it to be independence that you pay taxes to persons of your own tribe? When Srila Prabhupada, the founder of ISKCON, first met his spiritual master, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, he was in his early 20s. He was a student at the university in Calcutta. And he was not very interested to go see any sadhu, because he had seen so many pretender sadhus. But his friend was very enthusiastic. We must go see this one. This one you'll find is special. So reluctantly, Srila Prabhupada went. And he spoke with Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, the beginning of the 20th century. He presented a doubt he had, that as long as India is under the control of the British, how can there actually be freedom? How can there actually be a full life? So Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur explained to Srila Prabhupada that what is this political independence? It is such a transitory thing, such a temporary and superficial thing. It is not significant at all. As long as you are in material existence, you are dominated. You are dominated by material nature. So what is the plan to become free from the grip of material nature? Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur explained that bhakti, devotional service to Krishna, is so important, it can't wait for anything. It can't wait for anything political, economic, whatever. Because bhakti is the eternal expression of the spirit soul, the Atma, in relation to the Supreme Soul, Krishna. So please try to think about this point. Bhakti, devotional service to Krishna, is so important, it can't wait for anything. we can just consider the various aspects of our life, all the things that we hold to be top priority. But the viewpoint of Bhagavad-Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam is that nothing can ever be more of a top priority than your own Krishna conscious efforts. In the 4th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, it is stated that there is no greater mistake we can make in life than to consider something more important than our own bhakti efforts. There's no greater mistake in life. Please think about that. So Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur presented to Srila Prabhupada that bhakti, Krishna consciousness, cannot wait for anything. Political independence, political dependence, it's all external to the reality of the living entities need to become free from the grip of material nature. Because whether you are serving this government or that government, just like so many of you have come from India to the USA. So before in India, you were serving the government in India. Now you are serving the government in the USA. But in both cases, we are under the control of material nature. That is the point. So the real liberation is to become free from that grip of material nature. Human life begins with understanding that I should not let nature's laws act upon me. I should have a program of real freedom. But that real freedom is of the soul. It cannot be achieved through politics or economics. Real freedom is achieved in the pure relationship between the soul and Krishna. Because Krishna is unlimited. That means in your relation to Krishna, you have unlimited possibilities. That's freedom. Unlimited possibilities how to love Krishna. That is the nature of the spiritual world. Now let us consider the material world. The more we try to be independent in the material world, the more dependent we actually become. This is the paradox. The more we try to become independent in the material world, the more dependent we become. But it's in a very covered way. It's in a very tricky way. Please think about your life and your efforts and how in so many ways you're dependent on situations and persons outside of yourself. That's the meaning of conditioned life. Our life is full of so many conditions. If the weather is a certain way, then, or if the health is a certain way, then, or if this person approves, then, or if I have a certain amount of money, then, or if I get the green card, then. And so in this way, so many conditions. That's why material life is called conditioned life. A life subject at all times and places to conditions. The love between the pure soul and Krishna is unconditional. That means no conditions can affect it. That is freedom. Now, how did we get this independence? We should wonder about this. Has Krishna imposed independence on us? Sometimes we think it's a great burden to have independence because we can make the wrong choice. Independence means you can use it or misuse it. You can choose the right thing to do with your life, or you can choose the wrong thing. So we can see that so many problems in life are caused by misuse of our independence. We know examples of persons who have chosen wrongly and gotten themselves into such great difficulty. And then, once we understand that the root of our problems is our choosing to live material existence, we may wonder, why did Krishna allow me to do that? Why did Krishna give me this independence, knowing that I could misuse it? The independence of the soul is not something imposed from without. It is the natural characteristic. It's the essential characteristic of the soul. So Krishna does not interfere with that. It is by his arrangement that we have independence. We were never created. We are eternal. When you refer to the creative powers of the Supreme, that doesn't include the living entities. Living entities, his parts always exist. As Krishna explains in Bhagavad-Gita, Natvevaham jatu nasham natvam neme janadapa. Never was there a time when I did not exist, Krishna explains to Arjuna. Never was there a time when you did not exist. Never will there be a time when any of us will cease to exist. So right in the beginning of Bhagavad-Gita, Krishna establishes the eternality of individuality. But certainly not individuality based on the body and mind, which is so temporary. No, Krishna is establishing the eternality of the individuality of the spirit soul. So let us accept the fact that we're going to have this independence in terms of the ability to choose. We're going to have that eternally. But it is not unlimited independence in the material sense. Let us be clear about that. We have the ability, the independence, to choose the material energy or the spiritual energy. So it is limited independence. You can choose which river you will jump in, either the spiritual river or the material river. Once you jump in, you're swept away. You cannot be neutral. You might tell yourself, well, I'm not ready to decide yet. You may say that you're not ready to decide yet, but the energies of Krishna are acting, and just by your activities, you've already made a choice. You have to be situated in one energy of Krishna or the other. So you may say, I think I'll be neutral. I think I'll delay the decision what to do with my independence. But no, nature's laws will be acting upon you. Similarly, as soon as the spirit soul makes an endeavor to hear about Krishna, to serve Krishna, the spiritual energy is acting upon you. Krishna's internal potency is acting upon you. If one of these little children decides, unfortunately, to touch fire, what will the fire say, so to speak? Oh, they are children, they don't know, I won't burn. No. You touch fire, you get burnt. Similarly, you interact with the material energy, there'll be the material result. You interact with the spiritual energy, there'll be the spiritual result. So we have tiny independence because we are tiny. We're tiny particles of spiritual consciousness. And we have the ability to use that independence properly or misuse it. How then is Krishna the ocean of mercy, the Karuna Sindhu? It seems like he's given us this curse, independence. And we can make the wrong choice. Birth after birth. As the Lord says in Bhagavad-Gita, Mudha janmani janmani. Birth after birth, a fool. That potential is there. So why? And how can Krishna be called supremely merciful, knowing that his parts and parcels, the living entities, are saddled with this independence? Even though it's small, it's tiny. Krishna is supremely merciful because he's always educating you what to do with your independence. He doesn't interfere with your tiny independence, but he does give you the information how to use your independence properly, and he teaches you, he seeks to inform you of the consequences of misusing your independence. So that is how Krishna is an ocean of mercy in terms of your independence. So we cannot complain, oh, why did Krishna give us all this responsibility for ourselves? How many of you want to be little tiny children again and have no sense of responsibility for yourself? No. They don't know any better. They think, oh, this is a nice deal. Yeah, don't have to go to work, don't have to go to school, have everything done for you. Get toys to play with, right? Television to watch, right? It's nice, huh? But as they get older, they'll get tired of that. They'll want to do things on their own. So none of the adults or young adults here want to live a life of being dependent. In fact, you want to taste the pleasure of having others dependent on you so that you can feel some worthiness that you're taking care of others. Others need you. So even though we are never fully independent, we, in material life, want to experience that. That's why we don't want to become a dependent child again. But as the adults know, in order to make your own way through this world, as they say, you have to sacrifice so much of yourself. People are working so hard and so many long hours these days that actually work has become home. They spend more hours or as many hours at work as they do at home. And so the people at the workplace become closer to you than your own family. So all that is happening because of the quest for independence. But in this way, we're becoming more dependent. It is impossible to be fully independent within the material energy. Only you get the false hope, the dream of that, but you never get the real thing. You can just look at your life and think of all the different ways you are dependent. So then what is Krishna personally inviting the living entity for? Krishna is inviting us for independence in pure love. The more that you depend on Krishna, the more that through Krishna you're independent. But we think that through the material energy we'll be independent. That is a great mistake. Through Krishna, we are independent in love. the more that we depend on Krishna. In fact, Krishna agrees to come under the control of his devotee. He agrees to do that. Generally, in life, no one likes to be dependent. These children, they're little, they like it. You'll say they don't know any better. They have good parents. Then they're getting everything they need without any worry. They're not worried. Where will tomorrow's meal come from? Although dependence is looked down upon in material existence, in spiritual existence, dependency is the most wonderful thing. Krishna is unlimited. Krishna is infinitely all attractive. If we depend on Krishna's attractiveness, that is real freedom. So let us reconsider our idea of independence. You cannot have it in an unlimited way. It's always so limited because we are tiny. Therefore, our independence is tiny. Perhaps you might say these little children have some independence. If they're watching television, they can decide which channel they'll watch. So they may make a big thing about that so-called independence, but the adults see it as so tiny. Maybe the parent has the television fixed so it's restricted to certain channels for children. My mother would do something like that when I was little. The technology did not allow that, but she had a whole list of television programs in the 1950s that we were not allowed to watch. Any television program that presented the lack of education as a good thing, she wouldn't allow us to watch. She was very concerned with the values of the programs. Any television programs that in any way tried to present that it's fun to be irresponsible, she wouldn't allow us to watch. So our options were limited. And that is the case in every aspect of human experience. Our options are limited. We don't have complete independence. But there's another side to us. We would like to be dependent also. There are two things going on. We're kind of schizophrenic. At one moment, we want to be completely independent. At another moment, we want sweet dependency on someone. But there's no one in this world qualified materially to accept our dependency. Krishna is inviting us to depend upon him. In that complete dependency on Krishna, in pure love, there's actually independence. So much so that Krishna will agree to come under the control of your pure love. Just like when he allowed Mother Yashoda to bind him with a rope. How do you get a rope around someone who has no beginning or end? How do you get a rope around someone who's unlimited? But Krishna allowed her to bind him because of her love. It was because of her love that she was able to get the rope around Krishna's waist and tie it. So that shows how Krishna will reciprocate to such an extent that he'll become dependent on us. His voluntary choice. How are we choosing to live? Our life should show increased dependency on Krishna. depending on material nature is very, very risky. People are in such anxiety today, depending on economic arrangements, political arrangements. How much will gasoline cost next week? Or what will the governmental policies next month? Or will I be able to get credit from the bank? On and on and on it goes. What will housing prices be like? What will the mortgage situation be like? What will the immigration situation be like? So many dependencies. The material world is not the place to manifest our existence. It's a restricted place. But in the spiritual world, in Goloka Vrindavan, you are unlimitedly attracted to Krishna, even though you are so tiny. Because Krishna has the unlimited ability to accept your love, the unlimited ability to attract you. So yes, you are bound to Krishna. But in that being bound to Krishna, you have unlimited possibility for exchanging love. In material existence, everything is limited. That's why there's frustration, there's anger, there's fear. No real independence is offered in material existence. It's a trick. It's what you get is covered dependency. The more you try to become independent, the more tightly bound you become by material nature. This human form of life is a chance to taste real existence in connection to Krishna. Let us not pursue the false goals of material independence. Let us not waste our valuable human form of life in that way. This kind of liberation, that kind of liberation, this kind of material freedom, that kind of material freedom. Just look and see. The more we endeavor for that, the more bound up we become in anxiety, the more dependent we become. This is the trick of material nature. But in Krishna's spiritual nature, there's no trick. Even though we are tiny, nevertheless, in the spiritual world, there is unlimited room for loving Krishna. Once you make the right choice with your independence, there's unlimited room for loving Krishna. That is our goal in life. Are there any questions? Yes.
Thank you for that nice talk on independence, Maharaj.
What's that again?
Thank you for the talk about independence. And listening to you speak, you wonder, like, well, at what point did we become so independent to leave Krishna and come into this material world? And the other side of
Okay,
that,
one thing at a time. At what point, she said, did we become so independent that we left Krishna
and wanted to come to this
and wanted to come to the material world? Factually, it is impossible to leave Krishna. Separation from Krishna is impossible. But we are dreaming that we are separate from Krishna. Just like you could be at home with your husband, and you both are asleep, and you're dreaming you're millions of miles away, maybe back in Vrindavan or Mayapur. So separation from Krishna is impossible, but we can do it in a dream. The material existence is a dream in which we imagine that the impossible has happened. We are separate from Krishna. We have forgotten Krishna. The bhakti process, especially chanting Hare Krishna, revives what you already have. It doesn't bring to you something that you don't already have. It revives what you have now, but you have forgotten. You can't see it. What was the second question?
I'm afraid to ask that one. How did you explain that one? But the other one is that, so Krishna gave us all this free will and independence. Can we just give back that independence to Krishna since it's gotten us nowhere? Can't we just say we don't want it? Thank you. But
It's your independence is your essence. So therefore you might as well learn how to use it properly. And Krishna is merciful because he's going to give you the information how to use your independence properly. That's how he's the ocean of mercy. Why should he let you commit suicide? Better, as the supremely merciful person, he gives you an education what to do with yourself. But we get so frustrated that we just want to take that independence back. It's caused me so many problems.
we just want an honorary degree. So that's not possible.
What do you mean by an honorary degree?
That Krishna just zap you anytime.
What kind of love opportunity is that?
Well, this is devil advocates, but we didn't ask to be born.
You did ask for material existence. Indirectly. By your turning away from Krishna, you're asking for material existence. Because you can only turn away from Krishna in your imagination. So Krishna has provided this imaginary world where you can act like he doesn't exist. So the bhakti lifestyle, the Krishna conscious lifestyle, is all about making the right choices all the time, day in and day out. One thing you should understand, Krishna is the supreme enjoyer. Why would Krishna want to enjoy forced love? Who here wants to be in a forced relationship? Who here wants to be with someone who's forced to be with you? No. You want to feel that this person is staying with you because of your good qualities, because of your beauty, because of your intelligence. You want to feel that way. No one wants forced love. All right, there may be some arranged marriages here, but still, each person did have a say. Isn't that so? You could have said no at the last moment, right? Isn't that so? I don't think many of you were married the traditional way where you don't see your husband, you don't see your wife till they sit down and right? Anyone married like that here? I don't know then. Suresh Krishna, were you married like that? Raja Vidya. So even though it was arranged, you had some say, right? If you had said to your parents, no, this is not, Pravidya is not for me, your parents would have, okay, right? So who wants forced love? Yes. Krishna Prem, is that what you want?
No.
Yes. You want your ego enhanced, right? You want to feel that someone chose you because of your handsomeness, your yeah. So if Krishna is the supreme enjoyer, why are you then saying he should have forced love, which is such an inferior thing? So Krishna arranges that you'll choose him. So the material world is the place where you can get over your making the mistake of the wrong choice. You learn how to choose Krishna again. Krishna knows how to get the best love. He's the supreme enjoyer, the supreme lover. So he knows how to make arrangements so that you'll come to your senses and give him the best love. Because actually you don't suffer in material life. The soul is untouched by material existence. We're just having a long nightmare. And in that nightmare, sometimes we imagine there are some good times. So it's a very ingenious system. The soul is never compromised, never touched by material life. The Vedas say, asango hyayam purusha. There's actually never a connection between the soul and the material covering, the body. So you're actually never hurt by material existence. Simply because we misidentify with matter as the self, we suffer an illusory pain. The first thing that chanting Hare Krishna does for you is work on reducing this major mistake of trying to live separate from Krishna. The consciousness of living separate from Krishna is like dust on the mirror of your consciousness. So the chanting of the Hare Krishna mantra cleanses that dust. So much so that gradually in the purified mirror of your consciousness, you'll see your original loving relationship with Krishna reflected. Therefore we say, Param Vijayate Sri Krishna Sankirtan. Let there be all glories to Sri Krishna Sankirtan, the congregational chanting of Krishna's name. So let us not resent having a tiny independence. Let us learn from Krishna how to use the tiny independence. And let's not make the mistake of thinking Krishna should have forced love, something we ourselves won't accept. Who can we use as an example? Gaur Prem, how many years have you been married?
30 years.
30 years to Nitai Prem. So suppose one day you said to her, Nitai Prem, I must tell you the truth. The only reason why I married you and I've been with you for 30 years is because I was forced to do so. How would she feel?
Devastated.
Yes, devastated, he said. You would see all kinds of pots and pans flying at you, right? So why should Krishna have that kind of love? We don't want it. Let us give Krishna the best. Enthusiastic, voluntary, loving devotional service. Yes?
We see in our disco, many of our gihastas that just to pay their rents and get their food, being able to have a Krishna, they have to spend so many hours in the job. They hardly see the family, what it was telling us. So what would be a practical example for Gihastras to depend on Krishna?
What would, say that again, the last part?
Practical example for Gihastras to depend on Krishna?
The simpler a family can live, the easier their life will be these days. That's why we stress simple living, high thinking. We should not let economic concerns dominate our life. We should work to live, not live to work.
Maharaj, for example, in this country, devotees come and they need to get their documents. So they work so hard just to get the documents and thinking after that, I will be depending on Krishna because I will have a good job. So,
There's always some austerity in trying to do anything in the material world. Make sure that what you are doing, what you are trying for, will enhance your service to Krishna, will enhance your Krishna consciousness. That is the main thing. Life in the material world will always be, to some degree, a struggle. There's nothing you can do about that. Every ashram has its struggles. The grihastas, the sannyasis. Traveling all the time is a struggle. But our great thing is that we're struggling for the best purpose. Just think of struggling in material life, all for illusion. That is the worst thing. Actually, a real devotee cherishes a chance to struggle for Krishna. That's a great honor. It's considered a blessing. Yes.
When you ask Guru Prema, how long have you been married and what will happen if you do this to your wife?
Mm-hmm.
I was remembering that this different circumstance, looking at Rumini Varkaris, Krishna did that to Rumini. And then maybe you can say some sweet things about Rumini Varkaris.
Yes. Krishna in Dwarka. He was thinking, Rukmini is too submissive. He cannot see her beautiful face in anger. He wanted to enjoy that. You see, often it is said that Rukmini is expansion of Srimati Radharani. That's in a general sense. But specifically in Dwarka, it is Satyabhama who is more coming from Srimati Radharani, in that they both share that same mood of being unsubmissive and apparently disagreeable. So Rukmini, she is so agreeable, she's so submissive, she's so cooperative, that Krishna is thinking, when will I ever see anger cross her face? This is another reason why Krishna is the supreme enjoyer. You can't imitate that. What would happen if you decided to provoke your wife just so you can enjoy seeing her face in anger? You would not risk such a thing, such a nuclear explosion. And the effects would last for days and weeks. Even 15 years from now, you would hear about it, right? Do you remember 15 years ago when... But Krishna is the supreme enjoyer. So he thought, let me see Rukmini's face in anger. I will provoke her. So he began to speak to her. Why did you marry me? I'm so unqualified. There are so many other princes who are eager for you. You should have married them. You made a mistake marrying me. But it's not too late to correct the mistake. You can divorce. Upon hearing those words, Rukmini collapsed on the ground like a banana tree knocked down by a high wind. And then Krishna manifests 4 arms to pick her up off the ground. The most wonderful husband. With 2 hands, he picked her off the floor. With the other 2 hands, he smoothed out her hair. Krishna is showing how to be the supreme husband. You cannot compete. And then he told Rukmini that he was trying to explain his motivation. He said, you know how it is amongst householders when the husband comes home after his duties, he likes to enjoy joking words with the wife. So yes, it was like a thunderbolt for Rukmini. You can go find another husband. It's not too late. She already had children and everything. Of course, in society today, that would not be controversial. It's happening even in India. Recently, there was one movie released in India and it was about people trading their husbands and wives. And the movie directors, the Bollywood directors said, we know that 95% of the people in India don't live like that. But we do, the movie directors. So we're just being honest and showing honest art. That's the way the movie people live. So we're making movies like that. And even though 95% of the people in India would look down upon such a lifestyle, they are paying to see the movie, so let it be. Any other questions? Yes.
What is, if Krishna is all absolute and there's no duality in anything that is related to him, then it seems like a paradox that he would create 2 energies which are apparently dual in nature, one which is superior and one which is inferior.
But for Krishna, it's all spiritual. Vishnu Shakti Paraprokta. It's all Vishnu Shakti. It's all the energy of Vishnu acting in 3 ways. So for Krishna, there's no matter. He sees everything is spiritual for him. But in Bhagavad-Gita, he asks you to see the difference between matter and spirit. But for him, it's all his. It's all his energy. It's all the Vishnu Shakti. He has no problems from the material energy. But we have all the problems with it. That's why we worship the deity. Because for Krishna, marble can be spirit. Spirit can become marble. We cannot see spirit, so Krishna says, all right, I'll stand before you looking like I'm marble, because that's all you can see. So, non-dual means there's no difference between Krishna and his energies. Shakti, Shakti Mato Abheda, the Vedas say. The energy is coming from Krishna, Without Krishna, the energy has no existence. So for Krishna, all of his energy is spiritual. When he comes to the material world, he has no problem from the material energy because it's all spiritual to him. But we, due to separation from Krishna, see the material energy and have problems. For Krishna, it's all his. No matter what kind of energy, it's all his. He's just dealing with himself. There's nothing outside of Krishna. He's just dealing with himself. That's Atmarama, self-satisfied. The Vedas say, Parasha Shaktiya Vividaiva Shruyate. The Supreme Absolute Truth has varieties of energies, but they're all his. For Krishna, it's all spiritual. Just like to the powerhouse engineer in the electric powerhouse, he sees electricity everywhere. But you'll take that electricity and it'll come out cold in an air conditioner or hot in a heater. So you'll see the differences. But to the powerhouse engineer, it's just all electricity. It may manifest differently in terms of cool air or hot air, but for the engineer, it's all electricity. So for Krishna, it's all his spiritual energy. But he has that energy acting differently in different situations.
Thank you very much for your wonderful presentation. Earlier in your talk, you mentioned that in this material world, they are full of conditions, but it is not so in the spiritual world. But Krishna demands in Bhagavad-Gita that you fully surrender unto me, only unto me.
He asks that you do that. He asks that you surrender, but he also tells Arjuna, Yatechasi tata kuru. Think about what I've said and do what you like. Krishna is recognizing you have that independence. I gave it to you. It's tiny, but still you have it. Think about what I said and do what you like. But he goes further. He explains, if you don't act according to what I say, you're going to fight anyway, but you will fight based on illusion. So he explains all the consequences. If you're fully conscious of me and act in that way, there'll be no obstacles. So Krishna, he asks for your surrender. And then because not many persons, not many living entities took up Krishna, they didn't fulfill his request to surrender. So Krishna came again as Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. All right, I will show you how to do it, since evidently you're having some difficulty. I will show you personally how to carry out my instructions. So Lord Chaitanya is Krishna himself, making the following of Krishna's instructions very easy. Anything else? Let me ask you a question that often I ask to other audiences. What is difficult? What's the difficult thing about bhakti, the Krishna conscious process?
The mind.
Why is the mind difficult?
because it carries you away like the wind, away from Krishna and sometimes back to Krishna. So how do you keep it from flickering?
You focus it on Krishna's service, on Krishna's pleasure. Anyone else? What is the difficulty?
To be completely devoted.
What do you consider to be completely devoted?
To be submissive.
But you are very submissive to material nature. You are studying or working?
What?
What kind of job?
Business analyst
Business analyst for
for a logistics company.
logistics company. You have submitted, right? When you went for the job interview, you promised to submit, yes? So you have submitted in so many ways. Why not submit in the best way? To submit is natural for us. But in the illusion of material life, we can't see how submissive we are. Because we are attached to the sense gratification. So then we think, if I get sense gratification or some material reward, it doesn't matter what I do to get that. I won't call it submission. I just call it doing the necessary. Being practical. But actually you're submitting. What do you think, Krishna Prem?
The most difficult?
No, about the submitting. You may say, I'm just doing the necessary, I'm being practical, but actually you're submitting. And in your med school, you're submitting, right?
Yeah.
The life of submission. But what do they tell you? That soon you'll be a doctor and you'll be on top of the world and on top of all possibilities?
Yes.
But actually, you are seeing the lifestyle of doctors. They are under so much pressure. We don't think about our life in terms of submitting. We think, I'm just doing the necessary. I'm just doing what I have to do. But it's submitting. Anything else?
That's it.
Mm-hmm.
If we summarize that, you say, what is the difficulty according to the teachings is that not being able to recognize Krishna as the supreme enjoyer and the proprietor and the best friend.
So, what is difficult about that?
The difficulty is that not to be able to recognize Krishna as the supreme.
But what makes it difficult?
The bodily concept of life.
Yes, it's amazing how deeply attached we are to our material body. So devotional service teaches you how to be attached to serving Krishna. You have to be attached to something. So let us transfer the attachment from serving matter to serving Krishna. That's all. Very easy logistics. Who else can say something that's difficult? Yes.
Forgetting our relationship with Krishna. Just you go throughout your day and the tendencies to forget that Krishna is there.
But what is difficult about the process? Remembering Krishna?
Uh-huh.
But you surround yourself with persons who remind you of Krishna. How is that difficult? Your home or your community, wherever you're living, surround yourself with persons and things that remind you of Krishna. Like we can see in Suresh Krishna's home. Everywhere you look, there's something to remind you of Krishna. That is good home management. Pictures on the wall, altar. He's having a program in his house. He can't escape Krishna. He's having this big program in his home. And his wife makes nice prasad to remind him of Krishna. So what is the difficulty? If you want that, you can have it. Soon he will have a child to remind him of Krishna. By looking at the child, he'll remember, I must be Krishna conscious so I can give this child the maximum Krishna conscious life. Anyone else? What is difficult? Yes.
Managing reactions in this existence, if it is favorable, I think it's Krishna's mercy. If it is unfavorable, it's difficult to convince myself it's Krishna's mercy.
Like what, for example?
Like if I get a bonus at work, I think, oh, Krishna's giving me more Lakshmi, so Krishna's giving me mercy.
That's true. Krishna's giving you more Lakshmi to use for his service.
Yeah, and if I have health issues, then I think, why is Krishna troubling me so much?
If what?
Health issues, for example.
Healthy.
Health
Health issues, yes.
So I think, why is he curtailing me from doing service? Or
No, he's giving you an opportunity to see the real truth of the material body. Often when we are healthy, then we think, oh, I should enjoy. But when we are sick, then we think, oh, now I see the realities. So just to keep us mindful of the realities, Krishna mercifully sends us some sickness. So that we don't take on the dreaded sickness of material existence. So when you are sick, you can think, just see this body which I thought I could enjoy so much, just see how I'm feeling now. You can ask yourself that question. When I go to the dentist, I do that. And the dentist, he's digging into your gums, so uncomfortable feeling. Yeah. I say, just see, this is the same body that I thought I could enjoy. Now see the reality. So a devotee knows how to use everything in a Krishna conscious way. That is Krishna's mercy. Any other? What is the difficulty in becoming Krishna conscious? Some of our guests?
Ego.
Huh?
Your own ego or
Your
like
own ego?
self-conception.
Can you give an example?
Like sometimes we are like, yeah, God is like, we are here, Krishna is everything. Like second moment we'll think, oh, I did this. Like, so we, at the same moment we'll just separate ourselves from Krishna. So just, I'm like.
When there are problems, we pray, oh, Krishna, help me. But when there are good things, oh, just see what I did. Yes. We are like this. Therefore, we need to develop our spiritual intelligence so we can always understand what our position is. It's like when parents give their children some money to buy something, and then the children just forget that it comes from the parents and think it's all me. I have gained this wealth. Any other presentation? What is the difficulty? What makes bhakti difficult?
Faith.
Faith? Can you describe more?
Though I theoretically understand that there is no difference between the deity and Krishna in real, but still practically, if for example Krishna is standing before me face to face, my reaction would have been different. But I see Krishna's deity, but the way I act is different. But when my faith, is to the point that seeing Krishna face to face is not so different from his deity, then my act would be entirely different. That time bhakti is very, very easy for me.
Gradually your spiritual perception will develop. So you keep pushing forward with the bhakti process, including seeing the deity, and gradually you'll gain in realization. You are working now or studying?
Study.
What are you studying?
Masters.
In
Computer science.
Masters in Computer Science. So is it expected that you'll know everything immediately?
Yeah. It is not expected, but I have a faith in the system that one day I will know the things.
Okay.
So I properly study I don't fail doing my homeworks or doing my work. But when it comes to bhakti, there is a process of executing things and abstaining ourselves from sense enjoyment, which I, not do like I study. And there is always a lot of offenses I can commit while chanting.
You enter into the bhakti laboratory, you'll get the result. Just like if you finish your MS in computer science, you'll get a certain result. Similarly, you apply yourself to the bhakti process, you'll get the spiritual result. What about when it's time to take prasad? Do you have any doubts then?
I do that, but still I think it is because of my faith I'm not achieving the desire that I should do it more and more and more.
Yes,
Not
yes.
that
Yes, more and more prasad. More chanting, more associating with devotees, and you'll get more Krishna. You are chanting a little bit?
Yeah.
Do you know how I started to chant Hare Krishna? 1 bead a day. I started chanting by just chanting on 1 bead every day. I would chant 1 bead, then put the beads down. Okay, that's enough. Because I didn't have the realization. You might say I didn't have the faith. But then gradually I increased. I was eagerly reading the books, Bhagavad-Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, Nectar of Devotion. But I was not so eagerly chanting. But just by reading the books, I began to understand why I should chant. So you are more fortunate than I am. You're already chanting. Of course, for me that was almost 40 years ago when I started to chant. Now I think, how can one not chant? What kind of life is that? No chanting. Just like people in your computer science program would think, how can there be life without computers? Similarly, the devotee thinks, how can there be life without chanting? So you be the real scientist. You prove to yourself that Krishna is for real. What does Krishna say in Bhagavad-Gita? Pratyaksha avagamam dharmyam. This process of bhakti gives you direct perception of the self. It's not blind following. You get experience, realization. So isn't that fair? All right. So it's good. Very nice. You're taking advantage. It's very good. Yes. Yes.
The more, in daily we suffer with a lot of anarthas.
Someone up here can say.
Yeah.
Anarthas, yes.
The more the anarthas, the more our mind becomes offensive, and the more offensive, like the more we fall down, and we go back, like not a bit away from Krishna. So, this like how to control the anarthas. They are very. Before then, in a normal life, we at least see them far, but in the process of Krishna consciousness, we see anger very near to us, false ego very near to us.
That's Krishna's mercy, that you can see these enemies. As you said before, they were far away. You thought you were such a nice, pious person, yes? Now you see what's going on. That's Krishna's mercy. What does Krishna say in Bhagavad-Gita? Tesham avanukam partam aham jnanajam tamaha nashayami atma bhavashto jnana deepena bhasvata. Out of compassion, I dwelling in your heart will turn on the shining lamp of knowledge and dispel the darkness of ignorance. So Krishna in your heart is allowing you to see what's there. That's his mercy.
But they are very hard to manage, Maharaj. Like they are really demonic.
But before you didn't see. Now you see. That's the first step to victory. Seeing the enemy is half the way to victory. Be thankful that Krishna, out of compassion, is allowing you to see. You see the work that needs to be done, right? Whereas before, you might have been thinking, oh, I'm a very nice person, everything is fine. I go to Janmashtami once a year. I go to the temple for Janmashtami once a year. Now you see, so much more needs to be done. That's Krishna's mercy. He's showing you what your future is. Very nice questions. Anything else that makes bhakti seem difficult?
Maharaj, it's one of the elements that I feel is lack of proper association, because for working class people, 6 days a week we are constantly interacting with a lot of material people who have absolutely no inclination. And one day on Sunday we come and meet with devotees, and this is sheer nectar to us.
But also you have a Krishna conscious home, yes? Well, that is Krishna's mercy on you. Make the home very vibrant in reminding you of Krishna. Of course, the more, the merrier, the more association we have with others, the more powerful hearing about Krishna is. Satam prasangam mama virya samvido. More potency is there when you hear about Krishna in the assembly of devotees. Nevertheless, when we are home, we can make our home a powerful place for hearing about Krishna. Yes.
Maharaj, the most difficult thing is how to avoid the complacency in Krishna consciousness, because at the time when we are introduced to Krishna consciousness, we take up very seriously, like getting up early in the morning and chanting the rounds and everything. But over the period, like that eagerness tends to reduce, okay, because anyway we are in Krishna consciousness, so okay, we see other devotees, so we start to compare and we become complacent in our own spiritual life. So how to avoid this complacency and become eager and enthusiastic every time?
We should associate with devotees who are eager to make spiritual advancement, and then we'll always be fresh and lively because of their association. You become like whom you associate with. So seek the association of enthusiastic devotees, and you'll also be enthusiastic. It's that simple. All right, what is next on the program? It's 9 o'clock.
Distributing prasadam. Distributing prasadam because prasadam who was not fasting today.
All right.
We also have this book of Maharaj, Emotional Dynamics of the Devotee, Bhakti Bhava. I'm sure some of you have it, but those who don't,